In the 19th century, Frederic Edwin Church became the most famous artist in the United States, best known for his adventurous travels and bold paintings of the natural world. Born in Hartford, Connecticut in 1826, the gifted Frederic Church decided at a young age that he wanted to become an artist. The art collector Daniel Wadsworth persuaded the landscape painter Thomas Cole to accept Church as his pupil. In 1844, 18-year-old Frederic went to study with Cole in Catskill, New York, on the banks of the Hudson River, and accompanied him on sketching excursions in the nearby Catskill Mountains. Cole noted that Church had the finest eye for drawing in the world. In 1848, at age 22, Church became the youngest artist to be elected to the National Academy of Design. Frederic Church established a studio in New York City and quickly gained a reputation for expansive New England views that synthesized intensive plein air studies into vivid compositions. In 1857, Church rose to national and international prominence with his 7-foot-wide panoramic painting, Niagara, which stunned spectators throughout the country and in Great Britain. One critic famously wrote, "This is Niagara with the roar left out." By this time, Church had also become enraptured with the work of the renowned naturalist and explorer, Alexander von Humboldt. Humboldt implored artists to travel and capture the majesty of the natural world, particularly in South America. In 1853, Church made the first of 2 expeditions following in Humboldt's footsteps through the Andean region. His resulting 1859 masterpiece, The Heart of the Andes, is a huge 10-foot painting that he exhibited in dramatic fashion. It was the blockbuster art event of the decade and stunned audiences in New York City and around the country. His friend, Mark Twain, wrote, "You will never get tired of looking at the picture." And a New York paper wrote, "A new picture by Mr. Church is as considerable an event in the world of art as a new novel by Victor Hugo or a new poem by Tennyson would be in the literary world." It was during the exhibition of The Heart of the Andes that Frederic met Isabel Carnes. They married in 1860 and purchased a hillside farm in Hudson, New York, directly across the Hudson River from the home of his late teacher, Thomas Cole. This property formed the seed of his greatest artistic endeavor, Olana. Church's artistic appetite for the natural world brought him to the North Atlantic between Labrador and Newfoundland to sketch icebergs. 1865, Frederic and Isabel traveled to Jamaica, which led to some of Church's most vivid oil studies of botanical growth and tropical light. In 1867, Church and his family embarked on an old-world painting pilgrimage to the Alps, Rome, Athens, and the Eastern Mediterranean, including Damascus, Jerusalem, and Petra. When Church returned from his voyage, another visionary series of paintings emerged, and his artistic work began to extend beyond the canvas to the design of Olana's 250-acre landscape. During this period, Church also accepted the role of Parks Commissioner in New York City's Central Park and became a founding trustee of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Church also helped to establish a campaign to create a public park along the American and Canadian borders of Niagara Falls, an iconic landscape challenged by increased 19th century industrialization. With Frederick Law Olmsted, Calvert Vaux, and others, the artist Frederic Church advocated for the first state park in New York, the Niagara Reservation, a forerunner to the national parks movement.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sam Sawyer Washburn and Susan Oberwager, President of the Olana Partnership.
I have no idea how they knew my Starbucks name. I have an ancestor, Sam Sawyer, so here I am anyway. Good evening, everyone. It's so wonderful to see you all here with us this evening. I can tell you in the last 12 to 24 hours, I've sort of known what it would be like to have a disco party in a house of cards. But we are here, and we are live as well. It's wonderful broadcasting. Thank you for being here to celebrate and honor these three extraordinary individuals, Jean Shin, Betsy Kornhauser, and Meredith Kane. I also welcome all those who are watching at home on our first ever live broadcast of the Frederic Church Awards. We are thrilled to have here with us this evening New York State Commissioner of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, Eric Kulisade. As well as previous Church Award recipients Betsy Brune, there she is, Stephen Hannock, and Jason Rosenfeld. I think they're right here. As certainly today's events here in this great city have shown us, we are living in these extraordinarily challenging and really traumatic times. We can't help but feel anxiety, a bit of powerlessness in the face of current events. Yet all of us who are daily at Olana State Historic Site, we have really seen how the public having access to green spaces, to a place of really sublime, intense beauty, really fosters a sense of physical and mental well-being. Our passion and your passion for this place that is Olana really does make a difference. And I want to thank Olana's public and private staff and volunteers, looking over there, who really have, and all of our supporters, those of you who are in the room tonight, and the many hundreds of members who are not here with us tonight, for making it possible to provide this frontline resource to over 200,000 people a year. Thank you. Our biggest hope this evening is that whether you're a new friend or an old friend, you'll be inspired to visit us this season and come and learn about the really transformative work and the projects that our public-private partnership is embarked on. For now, let's suffice with a virtual journey to Olana.
Frederic Church's Olana, an artist's home and studio, an experiential and environmental work of art, a 250-acre earthwork, a New York State historic site and public park, a regional economic engine, a national historic landmark, a viewing platform toward the American sublime, a mega artifact, a national preservation victory, the most intact historic artist's environment in the United States. Olana inspires. It immerses the visitor in a great 19th century American artist's vision that lives today as a compelling creative laboratory. Frederic Church envisioned Olana as a 250-acre environment, masterfully combining architectural, agricultural, park, and wilderness elements into a single artistic composition. Church wrote, "I can make more and better landscapes in this way than by tampering with canvas and paint in the studio." From Olana, one can see 4 states, and Church designed this work of environmental art around its near and distant views, now considered Olana's integral viewshed. Olana is an exalted hill of art. With its vast collections and protected views, Olana has stood the test of time and today thrives as a public work of American landscape art.
Thank you. We have some pretty special atmospheric effects at Olana. And as you can see, Olana really offers a very unique national platform for the intersection of American art and environmental consciousness. And over the past decade, the Olana Partnership has sought to engage contemporary artists to help lead this dialogue with our visitors, and in particular with outdoor works and installations. Jean Shin took this engagement between art, history, and environment to really new, remarkable highs in her work Fallen in 2021. She opened our eyes to layers of meaning in the world around us as only an artist can. Let's hear more about this brilliant and impactful artist.
She is so generous with her time, with her thoughts, with her energy, always giving time to mentor younger artists. While her pieces may be beautiful, they also have so many levels of thought and provocation there, which is really special.
She's a remarkable person. She has a kind of warmth and intellectual vigor at the same time. That every conversation with her is both incredibly supportive and fun, but also generally really, really thought-provoking.
Materials have a life of their own, and her interest in working with a certain kind of material, whether it is a lotto ticket or an old iPhone or an umbrella that was broken, how that speaks to kind of a broader societal relationship to things and what we do with those things, what our lives look like now and what we hope for the future.
Because she's Jean and she's so incredibly generous with her time and her energy, she really stayed connected with the organization, always giving time to mentor younger artists.
What she's exploring bridges individual contexts, allow us to see ourselves as part of a multifaceted but interconnected social and cultural fabric.
Her pieces are beautiful. You want to touch them. You want to play with them.
She brings in history. She brings in the environment. She brings in so many of the things that are so prevalent today that we really need to be thinking about and talking about.
And at Olana, when that tree fell and Amy Mark had invited me to engage in a project, I wanted us to remember this tree and to honor it.
One of the things that struck me about seeing Fallen at Olana was not just how it spoke to the experience of this tree falling outside, but how it also spoke to Olana as an artist's home, as an artwork in of itself.
And here in our century, we are seeing this one amazing hemlock that I feel like is a gift from Church, who had planted this tree.
She thought about the site, its history, other themes that reoccur in her work, like climate change and the environment, and the life of both that hemlock, its significance within Olana, but also the time that everyone shared in thinking and being part of this exhibition.
We were there on a day when somebody was moved to actually recite a poem to the tree. I mean, you don't get to see that with many artworks.
One of the reasons that I love chairing young arts is because I get to watch the growth of an artist and see, like in the case of Jean, that moment when they are able to turn around and start helping that next generation.
As a mother, as a teacher, and as an artist, to me, gave me kind of this idea and hope that perhaps then I could also pursue that, right? That it was possible for me.
Her works elicit conversation. They challenge you to see something that you think you already knew in a completely different way.
How she realizes that art is a way to raise awareness about things, to bring attention to things, to create a dialogue and hopefully enact change.
I'm thrilled the Olana Partnership is honoring the remarkable, thoughtful, and brilliant Jean Shin. It is more than deserved, and huge congrats to you, Jean.
Shout out to Trevor. Thank you.
Thank you all for this very special honor. I am grateful to be in the company of these esteemed colleagues tonight. Who would have thought that, who would have thought that I'm much shorter than this podium? Who would have imagined that by mourning the loss of one hemlock in 2021, I would feel so connected to the artist Frederic Church. I'm humbled to receive this award in his name. Church planted this tree when he witnessed the leather industry's deforestation of the old hemlock forest in the Catskills. The tree was truly a gift to us, and also a warning about the environmental harm we cause, and the ecological crisis that we find ourselves facing today. His beautiful paintings, stunning, inspire our connection to the landscape. But in the creation of Olana, he brought generations to experience the beauty and the life cycle of nature firsthand. More importantly, he inspired people to take action: environmental preservation, land stewardship, while holding many communities accountable to his vision, the protection of the viewshed. All this happened because the imagination and ethos of an artist, and by example. His legacy lives in all the numerous trees he's planted, the larger ecosystem that it nourishes, and the free public access it gives to so many people, bringing the joy of being present with art, nature, and culture. His care and the passion continues with the work of Olana Partnership and the New York State's Park Department. So I want to acknowledge this work, the work of care, and their passion tonight. Thank you to so many, and I give thanks to them.
Thank you, Jean, so much. Our next honoree is not only one of our generation's leading curators of American art, who knows Frederic Church better than absolutely anyone. She's sort of been stalking him, I think. But she is also really a remarkably collegial and broad-minded scholar, and a really, really great friend of Olana and of Church's legacy. Betsy, let's learn more about Elizabeth Mencken Kornhauser.
Betsy's involvement with Frederic Church runs the gamut. I even remember years ago her telling me how she helped restore the gravesite of Frederic Church in Hartford that had been vandalized.
It was clear that she was extraordinary. Terrific researcher, wonderful writer, great sense of humor, very lively, and we hit it off, and we have been friends ever since.
Betsy's relationship to the Hudson River School artists goes right back to the beginning of her career. Who, Cole, Church, Cropsey, these people we thought we knew, that she's constantly rethinking what that group is.
Early on, there were no monographs on any of these artists. The story was, kind of sketchy as to how this great national school came to be.
The early books on the Hudson River School tended to be pictorial. Looking at Hudson River painting as depictions of the American landscape. It was curators such as Betsy who elevated that, understanding that these works are on a much higher level.
Looking at paintings with her is not like looking at paintings with anybody else. I mean, she has such an incredible eye and such a depth of knowledge in so many fields within American art.
A successful career in the museum world really requires multiple skill sets. You need the strong academic background and the ambition to continue to bring new information about American art to the fore, to not focus on a narrow story, but to broaden your story.
If you look at Betsy's career, it takes you to two great institutions, each of which has a global reach. There's the period at the Wadsworth Atheneum, where she steadily acquired extraordinary new examples of 19th and 20th century American art, and that's before she came to the Met. Then, of course, there was the Cole exhibition, so there's a long line of major contribution to the field.
Her judgment, her eye, her expertise, I really think are just unparalleled. Her impact at the Met has been huge.
I certainly began to think about the important role that Frederic Church played as a trustee of the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
She is equipped to deal with, every nuance of the interpretation and the meaning of collections.
Even our most recent exhibition that we co-curated together, Jules Tavernier and the Elam Pomo, I think it's a perfect example of her endless curiosity, delving into an artist she had never previously worked on before and into a relatively new field of Native American art history.
Betsy, beyond the Met, is so important to anything that goes on in the field of American art.
The most important support that the art market has is scholarship, and Betsy has contributed to that significantly through the whole range of American art, Thomas Cole to Marsden Hartley, and that scholarship has had an important impact on our understanding of American art.
I think Church is an artist who could probably benefit from a reevaluation in a much more global, international context, because he was very much a global artist.
Well, Betsy brings all of her immense knowledge and her creativeness to Olana, an extraordinary site. And with the deep interest in environmental issues and in climate issues, Olana is front and center. It's not just a journey into the past, it's very much a journey into the present, and actually, it is a journey into the future as well.
Betsy, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all of your incredible encouragement and support over the years.
Thank you from Team Cole, from me, from a bunch of my students who've met you over the years, for making it a delight.
Not only is Betsy a great connoisseur, but really, she's just a lot of fun to be with.
I can't think of anyone who is more deserving of receiving the award this year than Elizabeth Mankin Kornhauser, affectionately known as Betsy.
Doesn't say Betsy.
Oh, that's fine, my mom. Thank you so much. Well, earlier Sean warned me that these videos' purpose was to bring the awardees to tears, and I think you did that tonight. Thank you so much for everyone who participated, and to Olana for pulling off this wonderful event, which we really all needed very badly. Yeah. As you learned from the video, Frederic Church has followed me throughout my career. I had many great decades at the Wadsworth Atheneum, working with that great historic Hudson River School collection in Church's hometown, no less. And I actually forgot about the gravesite reference, but it was, it really did need some help in North Hartford. But Church, even I learned early on at the Wadsworth his incredible importance, helping to establish the collections of the Wadsworth and working with great collectors of the day, like Elizabeth Hart Jarvis Colt, who would bring a tremendously important Hudson River School collection to the Wadsworth. But in more recent time at the Met, I've worked with some of his greatest paintings, and during our 150th anniversary, it seems like a long time ago, but it wasn't, Sylvia, it wasn't. I became fascinated, as did many of us did, with the incredible role he played as a founding trustee of the Metropolitan Museum, and his kind of selfless drive to add works, not by himself, but by artists of the world, the Tolmec Mexican reliefs. He helped to position, well, we have this wonderful award, Cleopatra's Needle. He actually helped to bring that from Egypt and position it directly, a view from the Met in Central Park. And earlier this evening, we were looking out that window, Sean and I and Mark, and there you could see it. So his reach is really extraordinary. I was happy to see Victoria Johnson here this evening, who's working on an amazing biography. And I'm very excited about the events of the anniversary of the 2026 anniversary coming up. I look forward to helping with that. And I also wanted to say that I've been so impressed in recent years with the incredible work done at Olana, both with the house, the grounds, as Jean touched on, his knowledge of environmental systems really needs to be more deeply explored, and it is being explored at Olana. Certainly that was something he learned from his great mentor, Thomas Cole, across the river. And the wonderful collaborations between Olana and the Cole Homestead in recent time has been terrific. And finally, Olana is reaching out to indigenous communities as well as contemporary artists in recent time has just really enriched the programs at Olana. So I'm terribly honored to receive this award, and I'm very excited for what comes next for Olana. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Betsy. Places like Olana not only take a village or a public-private partnership to sustain them, but also leadership. And I can speak from very direct experience of the past 5 years and declare that Meredith Kane is an exemplary leader. As our chair, she has led us through not only a global pandemic, but the most significant transition in the Olana Partnership's 51-year history. She has helped our organization, Olana, and me to grow. And I know that many of you here tonight have worked with Meredith for literally decades, or are family and friends and can speak to her many, many other accomplishments. So let's hear some of that testimonial.
She's been a Paul Weiss lawyer. She was a member of the Landmarks Preservation Commission. Of course, she's been involved with Olana, her leadership there, and she has represented public and private clients in the New York City area now for literally decades.
I haven't seen many things that my mom can't do, except if you ask her to draw a bird, she might not get that quite right.
I heard of Meredith long before I actually met her. She was a legend. I went in a skeptic, and I was so quickly disarmed within a few minutes of meeting Meredith.
When there were really complicated public-private partnerships that needed incredible brain power, but also kind of astuteness and ability to weave together many disparate interests, she was the lawyer that people turned to.
Real estate in New York can be a rough and tumble place.
It was often the case that I found myself in a room with Meredith where she was the only woman in the room.
Fantastic personality, upbeat, charming, but Meredith can also be tough when she needs to be.
Like there is actually an unfortunate class of lawyers who actually try and confuse and complicate things. It's just not their nature to get things done. And she's a master at just kind of understanding how to cajole and to nurture and to push and to be tough and to just kind of get through all that.
I can't think of anyone who better represents what a lawyer should be as a professional as a role model, as someone dedicated to clients, and as someone who has been involved in her community.
She was always at every performance, every graduation, and every event. I don't know how she does it, and it always astounds us, but she manages to do it, and she makes it look so easy.
Whether it's the New York City Landmarks Commission, the Urban Design Forum, the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, countless social service nonprofits and affordable housing nonprofits. All of these have benefited from Mary's willingness to contribute her time, her expertise, her creativity, and her infectious enthusiasm.
When she first joined Olana, I think she felt like she was in a little bit over her head because she didn't know anything about Frederic Church and she wasn't used to this 19th century art.
Suddenly, there were books about Olana on her coffee table.
Meredith has many passions, but she's always made it really clear that Olana was at the top.
The Olana Partnership is continuing to make Olana ever more accessible.
But I think she's just so fallen in love with the area and the grounds at Olana and all of the diverse offerings. I think she even surprised herself a bit with how much she's loved it.
Her time at Olana has been great for Olana, as great as it's been for her, and I think that she's made us be really proud of.
She has thrown herself heart and soul into Olana. I was so thrilled to hear that Olana realized that Mary should receive the Frederic Church Award.
Meredith, you're an outstanding person, an outstanding family member, an outstanding friend, partner, and you've been an outstanding lawyer, community leader.
Congratulations, Mom. We love you so much. You totally earned this award, so enjoy it and enjoy your night.
We're very proud to be your children. We're very proud of you. We love you so much.
She's retired, if you can call it that. She's as busy as any other human being is today because she cares and she does something about it.
Oh my God. Wow. Wow. I'm totally overwhelmed. This is such a beautiful event tonight. Looking out tonight and seeing this whole room full of dear friends, beloved family, colleagues for years, cherished partners. It's an amazing sight, especially after the last couple of years. And a special shout out as well to family and friends, including my own dear son, Zeke, who you saw on the program tonight, who could not be here tonight for various COVID reasons. You're here with us in spirit, and we're thinking of you. Well, I am so honored to be here tonight in the presence of the amazing Betsy Kornhauser and the amazingly creative Jean Shin, each of whose work has contributed so much to the place and the idea that is Olana. Well, Sean, you said it. Being chair of the Olana Partnership for the last 5 years has truly been a labor of love for me. Getting to work with extraordinary staff, visionaries, doers, the best, literally the best, most dedicated board of trustees I think any board chair has ever had the pleasure of working with. Thank you all. And our trusted partners at New York State Parks. You've been champions. You worked tirelessly with us to make that public-private partnership work, and all of you are the ones who make it all happen. So I've been grappling for 5 years with what is it that makes the place and the idea of Olana so compelling, that has inspired so much vision, artist, dedication, and imagination in so many. For me, it's not the architecture, as beautiful and quirky as it is, and I'll admit it's not Frederic Church's art. As hard as I have worked to appreciate that 19th century art over the last several years, its beauty and its detail, I admit I still prefer the company of a good abstract painting. But what makes Olana so special to me is its history. It's a place with history. It's a place with a story. It's an important story and a meaningful story that tells us about the creation of this ever-evolving conception and experiment that is the America that we live in today, and is right in our very own Hudson Valley backyard. So the Jewish holiday of Passover starts this Friday night. It starts with a Seder, the annual retelling of the story of the Jews coming out of enslavement in Egypt into freedom. There's a twist to the storytelling, though. We are commanded that every generation must tell the story of the liberation from slavery as if we personally were the ones liberated. It's not enough just to tell the story of what happened thousands of years ago to some other people. We must put ourselves in the story, and indeed the rituals of the Seder are designed for us to experience firsthand the joys and the tribulations of our own process of coming from slavery into freedom. And I think that same idea of putting ourselves into history is the power of Olana too. We don't just tell the story of Frederic Church and his art and his vision and his family, but we experience for ourselves what Church experienced when he arrived at that awe-inspiring spot, looking over a bend in the Hudson River, looking over those glorious sunsets and that blue silhouette of the Catskills. We experience the lived experience of that place, and it gives to each of us, as Jean has testified, as Betsy has testified, an experience of the provocative lens for us, through which we are challenged not just to explore Church's history and identity, but our own history and identity. And that's what the many contemporary artists, amateur and professional, Jean exemplified, are inspired by Olana to do. They place themselves within Church's landscape, the vast sweep of the monumental mountains, the rivers, and the sky, to the detailed scientific precisions of ecology and botany in Church's paintings. And they take it as a starting point for exploring the very current issues of environmental stewardship, climate change, public attitudes towards science, and public attitudes towards knowledge. It's what the writers and the travelers and the scholars and the everyday visitors who come to Olana do. We place ourselves within the inspiration that Church brought home from his travels to the Mideast, Central and South America, and that he expressed so beautifully in the architecture, the art, and the collections of Olana. But we take it as a starting point for exploring our own contemporary world, where sadly, war and violence and economic poverty in those very areas where Church visited have led to some of our fiercest debates in this country over how we today welcome migrants and refugees from those very shores, and how our responses affect the American dream and American ideals as we live them today. So as we retell the story of Olana as if we ourselves were experiencing Church's explorations firsthand, and continue the story of Olana forward as we tell our own stories of a world that is the one he visited but is vastly different, and shaping our own world today through an understanding of where we have come from. It gives our own lives and experiences greater significance. We place ourselves in the context of history when we go to Olana, in the context of people and ideas and places that have gone before but are very present. And in doing that, we enter our own lives into the sweep of history. That, to me, is the true power of this place and of this idea that is Olana. I thank you all for such a great honor and for all of your wonderful support tonight for Olana. Thank you.
Now are you jealous of our weekly phone call? Oh my word. Wow. Thank you, Meredith, so much. And this does conclude the awards portion of our program. Our broadcast will be ending at this time, but if you are here in person, please do stay on for dessert. We're about to have the entree, so I'm being a little ahead of myself here. But during dessert, we'll have a very important closing element of the Gala program, and so we do want you to stay for that. For those of you at home, you will find that information just below the broadcast window. So thank you and enjoy your meal. Thank you very much.